Welcome to Kurz Wind Conversations, the podcast where we explore the people, technology, and ideas powering the future of wind energy. I'm your host, Robert Moore, and I'm excited to bring you an insider perspective from the leaders shaping our industry. Today's episode is a special one. I'm joined by Brian Nowak, the president and CEO of Kurz Industrial Solutions. Brian has been instrumental in guiding Kurz through its evolution from a regional industrial powerhouse into a forward-looking, wind-focused solutions provider. His leadership and vision are helping to position Kurz as a thought leader in a rapidly growing renewable space. In this conversation, we'll explore Brian's personal journey, the strategic decisions behind launching the Kurz Wind division, and his outlook on where the wind industry and renewables at large are headed. Thanks for being here, Brian.
Thank you, Rob. Pleasure to be here.
Let's start from the very beginning. Your initial, what brought you into maybe your industrial space, and then where at some point that transitioned into the energy space.
So I started with Kurz a couple weeks after I graduated from the University of Wisconsin at Madison in business management and marketing. And to be honest, when I started, I had some opportunities to go into a few different sectors, retail management, insurance. My dad happened to work for Kurz as a sales manager at the time. And after I had met with him and talked to the owner of the business at the time, I felt like it would be a good move for me at that time to start with Kurz. And part of the reason for that is I knew the relationships that my dad had built over time. I knew one of the things that was really important to me was that, family's always been very important to me. And I knew he was at my games and he was there and at home on the weekends. And to me, that was really important and probably kept me out of, going into like retail management and that sort of thing. And I also knew that the type of customers that Kurz was dealing with are people that are in various industries, but they put food on the table and put it into the grocery stores, heavily involved with energy production, dealing in the automotive industry, all the things that as consumers in living our day-to-day lives are really, really important. And so that was something that I think intrigued me to get into the industrial space. And so I began with Kurz a couple weeks after I graduated and in sales at that time. And from there, after about 7 or 8 years, proceeded into sales management and was sales manager of Kurz for about 12 or 13 years. And I've been the president and CEO for about the last 9 years or so. So that's my journey.
That's an amazing journey too. You don't see people in today's business world often stick with one company for so long. And that I really respect that. You'd mentioned several leadership roles across multiple areas within Kurz. How has that shaped your experience in guiding Kurz as its leader now?
When I started in sales, I really understood how important it was to get the voice of the customer. What is it that is important to them? What are the things that keep them up at night? How can then we step in with what we do to help solve those problems? And I think sometimes we make business a little bit more complicated than it really is. I often think if you take care of customers, they're going to want to come back to you. And so in instances where they're looking for a solution, if we can deliver on that solution, they're going to want to come back. And that has been something that's really guided me, not only in the role of sales, but in sales management and eventually making leadership type decisions, is how can we take the pain points or pinch points away from customers? How can we really listen to what it is that they're looking for and apply what we do to help solve those problems? And that has been a critical, guiding light for the decisions that we make, is what can we do to take care of our customers and do it well?
And I can attest personally. First time I sat down with you, the very first thing you mentioned was we are a customer service focused company. We want to help people take away those pain. The very first thing you said to me, and I always remember it, and I always go back to that when I'm dealing with people. Also, whenever I'm talking with internal team members, it's like, hey, we're customer service first. Focus on that. So, with all the years that you had, there has got to be some defining moments in your career that led to your role as CEO. Can you elaborate on maybe some of those defining moments?
I think early on, one of the mindsets I had was that it's really important to build the relationship with our customers and take care of our customers. But I viewed the suppliers as, hey, I'm your customer, so you should do what I'm looking for. And it was a moment that I had to flip a switch where I said, wait a minute, it's really important to develop the relationships with our suppliers as well. This is going to be a partnership, not a transactional relationship. And it's really important that I provide feedback to our suppliers on what it is that we're looking for in order to best serve our customers. But I also recognize they've got a job to do too. So trying to align what is it that they're trying to accomplish? How can we provide value to them as suppliers? That was a bit of an aha moment for me, or a switch from my original thinking. Another thing I would say is what I learned in sales, especially over those first few years, and it's proven to be true, I think, year after year, is that it's really important from the sales side to be organized and deliver on what you say you're going to do. So there are times where, I would be talking to a customer and I would say, hey, I know you need this answer by Wednesday. And rather than let just Wednesday come and go and not get back to them, it would be a situation where I'd be working with our suppliers and saying, okay, you're telling me we don't have an answer yet. When can I get one? And I need to then proactively communicate back to the customer because I told them one thing and I want to deliver on what I say I'm going to do. So I think that that was definitely a learning. And as I'm talking about these situations or aha moments, as I referred to them as before, I feel like it's something that plays out again and again, and is something that, if I was to write a book on how do you deliver for customers, it is really going to be about treating them well, respecting them, understanding what it is that they're looking for, do what you say you're going to do, and be consistent. We all have good days and we all have days that aren't as good. And we still show up, right? That is the thing that I think is very important as well. And I found that as I got into management and also into leadership, that idea of consistency and showing up every day, good day or bad day, is so important. And our top core value within Kurz, we've got 6 of them, but our top one is build trusted relationships. And how do you build trust? By delivering on what you say you're going to do. And I just feel that that's so important. And so when you talk about defining moments, I don't know that it is as much a defining moment as it is just principles that I try to live by. And for the people at Kurz, we're looking for people who try to live by those as well, who align with building trusted relationships with people. As we know, it takes some time to build trust with customers, coworkers, other stakeholders. But in reality, you can crush that trust in seconds. If you're dishonest with somebody or you don't deliver on what you're promising, that's a removal from the trust bank account, so to speak. And so it's just really important that whatever actions we take, and there's a lot of different forms of that, but when we take those actions, the whole idea is that we're continuing to build trust with the people that we're dealing with every day.
Yeah, and like one of the things I love about what you were just saying there is that there's been times where in the wind, it seems like if we can help somebody in one of the worst moments, like downtown or things like that, if we can come through for them, give them a good price, quality, like quick lead time, things like that, it builds so much more trust when they're in their moment of need, that it allows us the opportunity later, when they're not necessarily in some sort of emergency moment, that they'll reach back out to us for something. Hey, just see if you can give me a better price, and as long as you're communicating, like you said, communicate with them constantly, say, hey, we are looking for you. It's going to take like a couple days, or whatever. I've noticed that really does build that trust level with the customer, and I think they appreciate that. So.
Yeah, to that point, Rob, I've seen over the years where exactly what you're saying. On the industrial side, for example, might have somebody who calls in the middle of the night and they need something, and you bail them out of that situation. They realize that, hey, you're somebody who answers the phone, that looks to take care of them, and it really builds a lot of rapport to the point where they may put you on speed dial as this is somebody who I can trust to take care of me if I get into a pinch. And when we deliver on those situations, to your point, it makes such a difference for them.
Definitely. Okay, now we know a little bit about you, which is great, because now I've learned a little bit too about you more. Let's shift towards wind. Kurz has this really strong legacy of motor repair and industrial type solutions. What drove the decision to kind of launch Kurz as a wind company, like 10 years ago, I believe?
We, from our industrial connections, were given an opportunity where there was a company out east that was working on wiring repairs, and they were trying to form a national conglomerate, if you will, and be able to cover every geography in terms of performing these repairs. So from our standpoint, the thought was, hey, we're going to be able to get additional service work doing this. And we have the know-how to be able to deliver on this service when it's required. And so joining this conglomerate, one of the byproducts of that was we were able to partner with Merson, who, as you know, we do a lot of business with as it pertains to brushes and slip rings. And so at that time, we were thinking, okay, this is another component of service that we can do throughout the Midwest and keep our shops busier, keep our repair techs busier. And so for us, it was a great situation where we could jump into this partnership and be able to gain access into the wind industry, something that we were not familiar with prior to. And as things materialized, we certainly did a number of those jobs, but we started really, it was about 2012 or so. We started with a few of those repair jobs, but then we started to sell some of the Merson brushes. And I will say it this way, in the beginning, in terms of wind, we were doing basically two products from one vendor in a couple of states in the Midwest. And as you know, that has materialized greatly over the years into call it 50 plus vendors with close to 100 different products that we're selling nationally, and even some international sales as well. So it has materialized in a great way for Kurz from what it once was back then and how we got into it, to the point now where a significant portion of our business is the distribution side of the business. However, we do a fair amount still on the repair side as well.
What would you say, was there a tipping point or some sort of insight that you gained when you first started doing those wiring repairs, where all of a sudden it said, you're like, oh no, wind is like, we need to stand this up and we need to start moving in that renewable based direction? Was there a moment that you can recall?
I think the biggest moment for us was when we brought on Jay, and for a couple of reasons. One of those was we had one manager who was spending time in wind, but also was responsible on the industrial side here in Wisconsin as a sales manager. And so he initially, Mike, he initially had said, hey, there's more to this than just doing wiring repairs. In fact, we can really start to grow our distribution business by having inventory on the shelf. And, at that time, it was like a little bit of a risk. We didn't know the industry. Um, and we didn't know how much we would sell, how much would be the right inventory to make sure we're taking care of customer needs. So fast forward a couple of years from after getting into it is when Mike had brought Jay's name up, and we interviewed Jay. And at that point, when he began, was the first time that we really had a dedicated wind person at Kurz. And as you know, the team has now grown pretty considerably. But when we had a dedicated person and Jay was out there calling on customers and again, taking that same philosophy that we've had in industrial sales in Wisconsin for a long time, which is let's go out and find out what the pain points are. What are the products and services customers are looking for? How can I help solve their problems? It's been the same type of approach. And in doing that, we started to realize, okay, here's some additional products that, I've gone to 10 different wind sites and they're all saying the same thing. These are some products that we should look into establishing relationships with vendors on. And that is really how it went from being what I said it was before, a smaller kind of half time, half person type of business into, hey, we're committing to this in terms of bringing on a full time resource. We're committing to this in terms of putting inventory on our shelves. We're committing as far as getting our techs trained to go up tower to do these repairs. That is when things really started to take off. And under Jay's leadership, he's done a phenomenal job in helping to grow our wind business with the support of myself and our leadership team, taking what I would call calculated risks to continue to be able to grow this business.
I can see why you would say everything you're saying about him, because he's uniquely positioned to. He has a deep understanding of the wind industry, and I've learned from him. As is everybody on the team has definitely learned from him, and I don't want to discount the role that Mike Glenn played too. I had the fortunate time frame to be here while he was here in the final days before he retired. I learned a lot from him also. I really enjoyed my time with Mike too. So what about Kurz do you believe uniquely positions us to serve that wind industry sector like right now, compared to maybe some others?
I think it's the combination of a few things. In other words, some of the things I'm about to say may not make us unique to everyone that's out there, but I think it's the combination of all of these things that makes us unique. So for us, the solution approach that I've already talked about is the way that we go to market. Second, our geographical presence. In other words, if you rewind 10 years and we're just covering the Midwest, we're not able to support the largest wind companies in the country when we're just serving the Midwest. And so by having grown in our geographical coverage has helped us considerably. I think the other thing is that we have committed to inventory of a lot of our products and really try to work with our customers to understand what it is their usages might be, what type of anticipated usages that they have on their contracts. And then the other approach I think that we've taken is having strong partnership with our vendors and networking with them and getting to know them and seeking their support. And when you look at all of those items, that I think makes us somewhat unique. I think the other thing is that we have really taken to AI. And I know, Rob, that you specifically are one of the key members of Kurz that has utilized AI in order to be able to help us in analyzing some data and making the right decisions. And so when you look at those five things, basically, I think that makes us pretty unique. I think that throughout the country, you're going to find people who might be very good at serving their customer. They might be very good in terms of having a great geographical presence. Maybe they've committed to doing a lot of inventory. Maybe they formed some strong partnerships with their vendors as well. But when I look at that whole combination, I feel like that makes us unique in terms of supporting the wind industry here in the United States and beyond.
I completely agree. Couple that with the fact that we, like you had said previously, we're going to commit to what we say we're going to do for them. And by utilizing those very points that you just gave us, I think it has a powerhouse effect personally. And I have nothing but good things to say because Kurz has given me the opportunity to take a class in AI and learn that. And I've been lucky enough to apply that to many aspects of what we do on the wind team. So that is, I appreciate you calling that out. So, and it's a fun thing to do too. So, you know, for a company moving forward, you need a strategy for the day-to-day mission that you have to complete, but you need vision in order to see what's coming up in the future and how to plan. How do you view the leadership when you're entering that fast-paced renewable environment? How do you view our leadership as it's changing, as it has been in the past?
I feel that one of the big things that's important as we're serving the wind industry is the ability to be adaptable. I would say that the difference between our wind space and our industrial space is that it feels as though the wind energy industry definitely moves at a quicker pace in terms of products, services offered. Um, Things change even on going to market. There is a lot going on, and the ability to be able to adapt to that has become really important. As I stated before, the willingness also too to take calculated risks. There are times where we put products into inventory and it hasn't worked out quite like we thought it would, but that is more few and far between in comparison to the times that we took a calculated risk, put on a bunch of extra inventory, put in a bunch of extra inventory for customers because of the feedback that we've gotten, and it's worked out beautifully and it solved a lot of problems. And so that willingness to take calculated risks and enter into new relationships with new product lines, because that's what the customers were saying that they were looking for, are some of the ways that, as we lead, I'll say it to you this way. If we were very conservative, we wouldn't have done half the things that we have done. If we, on the other end of the spectrum, just put in any inventory and formed any relationship we possibly could have, I feel like that would water down the mix that we have of service and quality. And so with that, we've really tried to be measured and take calculated risks, but also be adaptable and understanding that the market dynamics change sometimes, and sometimes they change pretty quickly. And so when that happens, are we able to adjust our strategy accordingly? And I'd like to think we've done a good job with that. We've probably made some mistakes doing it, but I think overall that taking that approach has served us well and will continue to serve us well as we move forward.
I completely agree. We've tried to set ourselves at the forefront by being a thought leader within the space. And as we continue to move forward, we do things like, for example, we're stood up this podcast because we want to hear from industry experts. We want to hear from the people who, are at the forefront of what's making renewables better, longer lasting, so that we're improving our communities. What's the future growth for the wind energy sector, both nationally and globally for Kurz? What's that look like as we move forward, do you think?
It is continuing to understand our customers' needs and continuing to add on products and services that will help meet those needs from a thought leader standpoint. Exactly what you said. I view it as, in doing this podcast and having some of the best and brightest people within Wind on board to give their insights, I think is a great way to provide value to the industry at large. And so that kind of thing, I think some of the things that we've also tried to do are, if we solve a problem and we can get a documented savings put together for customers to show what we might have done for, call it the same application for another customer. Certainly, we're not out there saying that, well, we've done this for this specific customer, but when we do solve a problem and can speak to that in call it a white paper or that sort of thing, I think that's where we can provide value to people that are maybe new to the industry, for one, or secondly, they're dealing with a similar problem and we've got a white paper on how to solve it. That's another way that we are able to do that. I think that the third way is that when we do get feedback from a customer on an issue that they may be having, and making joint calls with the vendor who can help be part of the solution is a great way to be able to stay ahead of those customer needs and be able to help solve those problems.
I love what you said about documented savings, because I feel like one of the greatest successes that Kurz has had has been those documented savings. Specifically, there was a small site, and I'm sure you remember this, but out of that small site, they were only running like under 20 turbines, and they were buying those batteries, the XC16. Great product line for us. However, we did show them that by switching to ultra caps, you're going to actually save money in year 3 of the documented saving. And once we were able to actually put that on paper and show them, hey, by the time that year 3 rolls around, I know the investment's large now, but it will be better at the end of year 3. Man, you're getting your money back. So, and they jumped on that. And since then, now we're in like 2 years now, and we haven't had to worry about batteries for them because they jumped on the ultra cap train, and it works out great. So I love the fact that Kurz taught me about the documented savings, and we're applying them wherever we can. So I think that's good customer service again.
Yeah, and I think to that, Rob, that's where it requires a good partnership with our customers, because if we can understand, what does it cost you to have a down turbine? If we're able to provide a solution that keeps you up and running and saves you on that downtime where the turbine's not going, if we have that understanding, then we can dial in on what sort of cost savings we might have. We don't want to overestimate, well, it probably costs you this much. So that's where conversations need to take place between our Wind team members and customers to have that understanding. And then we can put that information together. That's one thing I learned a while back. When you look at electric motors, for example, I had learned that about 3% of the total cost of a motor's life is in the initial upfront price. Yet, a lot of people base their decision on how much can they save to buy this one electric motor versus that one. And so it may seem like, well, the cheaper one is the better option. But what if you knew that this motor is going to last 20 years and this one is going to last 2? It seems like then that might not be such a great decision to buy the cheaper one, right? And so it's really understanding total cost of ownership and trying to provide the best solutions. I mean, somebody might say, well, we're only going to run this turbine for a couple more years. Well, then the lesser expensive one might make sense, So it's not that we should make the assumption that the more expensive one might be the better one. But it is having that communication. It just highlights the importance of having relationship and having the communications and getting the understanding so we can provide the best options for the customer.
No, and man, you've really pointed out something good because, like, as you know, again, as turbines reach end of life, and they're talking about like either repower or whatever, right? You're exactly right. Like, hey, we've been told before, like, hey, we have this killer product that'll last you 10 years. Well, shoot, I only got 5 years left until we're going to repower. So I'll take the lesser of the two, and those are the situations that you have to, like you were saying, you have to understand that and not just always try to be pushing what you want to sell as opposed to what their actual needs are. So, I mean, if I could sell the Cadillac every single time, I would, right? But, again, that he might not need a Cadillac. He might need, a different type of car that only goes for a certain amount of time. So very, very good points there. I love that. So what do you see? You've been in this now for about 10 years with renewable space and renewable, like strategic level planning for Kurz. What do you believe is maybe some of the problems in the industry that they need to solve within the next 5 to 10 years in the renewable space?
So I think from what I've read and discussions that I've had with people in wind, but I think it can be applied to renewables at large, is just this idea of the power infrastructure. Being able to you might have an understanding of, hey, we need to be able to turn all these turbines. Well, do you have the infrastructure to be able to have wind become, call it 40% of the overall energy produced, or and the percentages better than I do, but having that infrastructure is what I keep reading and seeing as a bit of a challenge to get over. And I don't exactly know what the solution is with respect to that. I just know that is an issue that I would imagine is discussed in some of the conferences that you guys are going to. But that strategically, it is definitely a challenge.
Yeah. So again, I was lucky enough to go to the Hamburg Wind Show and had a great time. Learned an immense amount of information about the wind industry as a global entity, and that was kind of what, like you're saying, one of the things that I noticed is they had mentioned how the infrastructure in Europe can support some of the bigger megawatt turbines on land, and how the differences between the two. They might have much smaller wind farms there, but on the American side, we have these ginormous 125 200 turbine sites, but they have a lower megawatt because the infrastructure can't handle that many. So I agree. There's got to be something in place maybe as we continue to grow, as maybe the infrastructure begins to grow also to support maybe some of those larger wind turbines that produce that larger megawatt for the what we have onshore in the United States. So that's a really good thought. So obviously, I think companies do business with us, and they do business with us because they can see our culture take effect. A lot of what you've just described in some of our core values and things like that, it's culture. You're building a culture here, and again, I can say this from personal experience. The first thing that we really talked about was the core values and the culture that you were looking to create when you're hiring people. So how do you foster that kind of that culture of innovation and within Kurz? Because again, you're an innovator. You've stood up a whole other side of your business, jumped into the renewable space, and then within like 5 years, you were super successful. And now we're 10 years deep. We're still being very, very successful. So how did you foster that cultural innovation, so to speak?
I think the big thing there, Rob, is that we look to bring people on board here at Kurz that align with our core values. So as I referred before, we have 6 of those. We are looking for those people that live out those core values and that are aligned with those core values. So the top one, as I mentioned, building trusted relationships. We interact with honorable character with everyone we come in contact with. So whether that is a stakeholder, it's a coworker, it's my boss, it's a supplier, a customer, whoever it might be, that's the way we want to interact with other people. And I think that is first and foremost. A lot of our other core values, I think, build into that. But another one is passionate, and that's we bring a contagious energy to everyone we come in contact with. And the idea there is the pursuit of excellence. We want to make a difference. We want to have passion around trying to grow something that we can all be proud of. And when I look at a number of our employees, and frankly, when I look at our win team does a great job of exhibiting a passion for the renewable sector industry. Those are the kind of people that we want to have on board. Another one that we have is continuously learning and improving. The idea we'll be better tomorrow than we were yesterday. So whether you've been at Kurz 29 years like I have, or you have somebody that has been hired 2 weeks ago, it's just this idea of constant improvement that we're trying to get better. And so, looking at innovation, those core values really align with trying to innovate, trying to get better, trying to find another way to solve customers' problems and stay out in front of it. Another one of ours is customer centric. We exist to help our customers thrive. We want to take care of customers. I've talked a lot about that today. And we want to take ownership and be accountable. That's another one of ours that we're looking to not let, it's somebody else's job to do that. No, we're going to, work together and be part of the solution rather than just complain about a problem, if you will. So when I look at the core values, how do we foster that culture of innovation and purpose? It's really aligning with those kind of people. I don't, like most organizations, we're not perfect at it, but with each person that we bring on, I feel like we can move up and to the right just a little bit more, right, to fulfilling what we're trying to accomplish with that. And I think that when we get those kind of people that are aligning in the same direction and are bought in and have the team approach, it's not an individual approach or someone looking out for what's best for them only. It's, hey, what can we accomplish together? That I think that we really can shine there. And so when I think about new opportunities or innovative products or those sorts of things, we want to have an open mind to that. And we want to say, hey, is this something that we can apply to help meet our customers and exceed our customer needs? So those are, the core values of our business. And it's really important that we have people on board that are aligned with that.
Completely agree. That's one thing that, I feel that over time I've become bought in or sold on the core values. Offered opportunities, when people have said, well, we could try this, do this a little bit different. The words that have come from myself and Jay have been, that doesn't align with our core values. We're going to walk away from something that doesn't align to our core values. So I completely agree. So for someone like yourself, you have been leading Kurz Wind now for about 10 years. What advice would you give out to somebody looking to lead in this rapidly shifting industry that the renewable space is?
I think there's a couple things there. One would be you definitely need to be open to new ideas. I think secondly, and I don't think that this is a novice idea at all, and it's something I touched on earlier, which is you got to be willing to get the voice of the customer. To the point you made before about, well, I'm going to sell them this or I'm going to sell them that. That's not the approach that we want to take. We added this new line, so we want to, push this, if you will. Instead, it's go in and talk to the customers, ask a lot of questions, try to understand what's just driving their decision making. Try to understand how we can better establish the relationships and provide more value to them as opposed to providing more value to us per se. So I think that those would be two things. I think that not only being open to new ideas, but also to be willing to take the calculated risks that I referred to before, which means that if there is a new opportunity, um, are you willing to step out of what you're used to and willing to take on the financial risk, the energy associated with maybe a new product or service? Are you willing to do that? And for some companies, the answer to that might be no, not really. Things are going pretty well, and I totally get that as well. I understand it. But those that are willing, have done their homework, gotten the voice of the customer, to me, um, and then are willing to take those calculated risks. I feel like someone who's leading in this type of industry, if they're willing to do those things, it can be successful.
Uh, Good. That's a well done answer. I appreciate it. Here, two final thoughts, if I could, with you. I'm curious what you have seen in the industry, what people misunderstand about either kind of wind industry or industrial solutions. What do you wish people knew better that they misunderstand?
I think one of the things, and maybe it's just the people that I've talked to, okay? So I'm not saying that this is what people believe, generally speaking, but I think there's enough people out there where I've gotten feedback over the years, not necessarily in the last couple of months, but over the years where they were saying, if not for government subsidies, wind could not stand on its own. Like it's an industry that, what does it really do as far as providing value? I've heard those kind of comments before, to which I say, well, actually, it can stand up on its own. And yes, it is a viable industry. And yes, it is important that we continue to diversify our energy throughout the country. And it is a great industry. And so, I think that there is a misunderstanding, misinformation out there of whether wind is truly a viable industry or not. So I've heard that sort of thing before. I don't know if you have, Rob, but I've had people, talk to me about that. I think it was more early on that I would hear those kind of comments. I don't hear as much of that anymore. Wind is here to stay. It's a great alternative energy source. And I believe that more people are starting to come to understand that more. But there was that misunderstanding, I think, especially early on. I also think that when you look at, you ask a question, what do you wish more people knew? I think that for an outsider, they don't really understand how rapidly it changes, or it can change, right? Whether it's go to market strategy of OEMs or suppliers like us, it is a rapidly changing industry. And so for people that are outside it, they probably don't see that or know maybe as much about that. Those are a couple things that I would say with respect to it.
The one, and I have heard what you just spoke about. The one I always would love to put to bed is like that. They think that there's this picture floating around the internet where somebody's covering up blades in some sort of dump or something. They're bulldozing the blades over with dirt, and that picture's so old at this point. Those blades, they many people have mastered the ability to recycle those blades now, and so like I wish people would get away from that. It's like no, that picture's not true anymore. It's like they're doing things like, I remember at one of the wind shows recently that I actually sat down on like a bench that was made from a recycled blade. So it was really cool, So yeah, that's the one that I would love to put to bed. That's not true anymore. People, don't listen to that or look at that picture. It's not true. So, all right, my final thought for you, as CEO, what excites you most about the path that Kurz, not just Kurz Wind, but Kurz is on right now?
What excites me the most? There's a couple things. One, we have got a great I have got a great leadership team around me that is bought in to the core values of our business and the desire to want to grow. One thing I see as I talk to other businesses is sometimes you'll run into businesses that are more of a lifestyle business, and they're making money and they're good with that. They don't really have a strong desire to grow. All of our leaders are excited to really grow the business, to be proud of what we can accomplish together, and to be able to really grow it. So, from the industrial side, for example, we've gone from this Wisconsin based electric motor and motor repair company that served about within a 100-mile radius to growing throughout the state of Wisconsin now into northern Illinois with the idea of, or with the goal of becoming more of a Midwest company in what we do on the industrial side. On the wind side of the business, I'm really similarly very excited about our team. I'm excited about Jay's leadership. I'm excited about the team members that are in place that have that same kind of mindset. Let's make something that we can, that's bigger than all of us individually, that we can really be proud of. And going about doing it the same way that I talked a lot about throughout the course of the discussion. But those are some things that I'm really excited about, because it is people with a common goal to really grow this business overall. So to your point about, it's not just about Kurz Wind, it's not just about Kurz Industrial. It's together. There's a lot of similarities in how we go to market and what we try to achieve in both divisions of our business, industrial and wind. And I'm excited about the future because we have big growth plans. And, I'm excited also about what we've accomplished so far. I think that energizes me to say we can even do so much more. And especially as we continue to add people that are aligned in our core values of our business.
Completely agree. One of the things that you just said I really love is, and I know for myself, I'm bought in big time, is, what's next? I don't want to rest on my laurels, so to speak. I want to get the win. I want to be happy for a day, and then I want to get right back into it and find the next big win, whether that's a particular order or contracts or growing the business. Yeah, I always want to be looking for that next big win. I don't want to ever rest and say, I'm done. I did something big this year. We're good. No, I don't want that. And I can say for out of the leadership that I know, very closely, that is really the attitude amongst many, if not all of the leadership that we have. Everybody just wants to let's grow big. Let's get this moving. We're not going to ever slow down. We're going to continue to always change and adapt as we go. So, well, Brian,
I think as a leader, one of the biggest compliments that I receive if I'm calling on a customer with one of our sales reps is, your team does a great job. Or I'll hear things like, of all our vendors, you guys are one of the best in terms of providing value to us, or responsiveness, or fill in the blank, whatever it is that's important to them. And they're saying that your team does that. I feel a sense of accomplishment and satisfaction when I hear those kinds of things from customers. It's very exciting to me because it's what we're trying to build. And then knowing, part of the reason that such a great compliment too is because then we're actually delivering the value. It's not just something we're talking about. In the customer's eyes, we are delivering the value that we set out to do. Because I think you can try to deliver value, and sometimes you just don't. Maybe, I mean, that's a scenario that can happen. And so when you make decisions that you think are going to drive value, and then you get that positive reinforcement, that positive feedback from the customer saying, you guys actually are, and I really like working with your team members, and we deal with a lot of different people, and you guys are doing a good job. That's a great, I guess, feather in the cap, and something that energizes me. So, yeah,
definitely. Well, Brian, I want to thank you, again, for being a part of this episode. This has been a long time in the making, and for sharing your leadership and your vision for Kurz Wind and Kurz Industrial. To our listeners, if you found anything today in this conversation insightful, we'd love your support. So please, like, follow, subscribe to Kurz Wind Conversations on YouTube and Spotify, so you never have to miss an episode. For more on Kurz and how we're serving the wind industry, visit Kurz.com and be sure to follow us on LinkedIn at Kurz Wind Division. Thanks again for those listening. We'll see you next time on Kurz Wind Conversations. Thank you.